The images seem worlds apart, two very different main streets. One right here in downtown Blacksburg, clean, busy, beautiful. The other in Nicaragua, the crowded main street of San José de Bocay. Though they look completely different, the two are sister cities.
Essentially, the thing is that it's like one city adopting another city. A city in a wealthy country like the U.S. adopting a city in a very poor country like Nicaragua.
Woody Leach first visited Nicaragua nearly 20 years ago. He felt a need to go back and asked Town Council if Blacksburg could become San José de Bocay's sister city. Eventually, it agreed. Recently, members of Blacksburg's Sister City Committee went back to Bocay to assess the needs of the town. Jerry Sheeler, a videographer from Virginia Tech, joined the group on its journey. He was able to capture these images of life in a third world country. Bocay is a rural town nestled deep in the mountains of northern Nicaragua.
It's about a 6-hour, depending on who's driving, it's about a 6-hour drive from Managua. I would say maybe 2/3 of the road is paved. It's that last third. If you're there in the wrong time of year, if you're there in the rainy season, you might as well forget it, I think. But it's not an impossible trip at all if the weather's good.
This, while most residents do not have a car and use discarded American school buses or large trucks as a sort of mass transit. Since the Sister City Committee's last visit, improvements in Bocay have been great. The town now boasts electricity, a modern convenience it did without until just 5 years ago. And recently, Bocay saw its first graduating class leave the town's high school. Blacksburg donated more than $25,000 to the school back in 1991.
The first thing we undertook was to rebuild a school, a public school there in the little community of Bocay. They had had, a horrendous hurricane, and the hurricane had practically completely destroyed the school. And when we asked the people, what's your greatest need, they said school. Our biggest impact, I feel, has been teacher training. We provide scholarship assistance. This past year we provided 7 scholarships for teachers to go and continue their education. And they sign a sheet that they will come back to Bocay and teach when this is completed. Because I'm convinced that the better the teachers, the better the school system, the better the community will be.
But the problems in the small agricultural village remain. There continues to be a lack of medicine, and the pharmacy's shelves sit empty.
Nothing on the shelves. And that, to me, I think is one of the major needs right now. And that was one of the things that the people echoed. We do not have any medicines. They do have more service by state doctors, governmental doctors, I guess you would say, but they don't have anything in the pharmacy.
This is every day large numbers of people make the uphill trek to call on the town's medical clinic and maternity ward.
Even though Bocay actually is a relatively small town, that clinic serves people from a large region because there's a large number of people that live out in the countryside. The majority of folks in that area obviously are farmers, and they live on the farm, and so if they have medical needs, they would travel easily a day's walk to be able to get to the medical clinic.
Bocay sits on the Bocay River, but its water comes from springs 2 mountains away. The citizens are responsible for transporting that water through pipe to their town.
So what the community had to do was to build the trenches for the pipe, to lay the pipe themselves. And this is one of the amazing things that just excites me about this community is so many of the people participated in that project. They were responsible for digging that canal. They were provided money to purchase the pipe and for various pieces of equipment, but the actual digging of the canal was all done by hand by community members. $2.
Another spring sends water into this reservoir and then to a power station. That power supports about 40 shops along the busy main street, selling everything from Pepsi to fresh vegetables. Agriculture is a way of life in Bocay, though large crops are difficult to sustain on the hilly ground.
Coffee is a big crop in that area, but that typically is for larger landowners. Also, cattle is another large commodity, but again, large landowners for that. Other crops are beans, corn, typical Latin American types of crops.
The people of San José de Bocay are poor, but their spirits are not defeated.
I've always felt Nicaraguans are some of the most, physically beautiful people I've ever seen. I think they are the kind of people who are always hopeful, and they really work together.
So what's next for San José de Bocay? Much of its future could depend on the people of Blacksburg.
I think if the people knew of the need in Bocay, if they knew of the history, I think we would get a lot more support than we do.
That support is important for a sister city in need of a helping hand.